Fog everywhere, on the river, on the courthouse steps, and even in the hearts of men. With these chilling words, Charles Dickens begins one of his most powerful novel, Bleak House. It is a world covered in fog, not just the fog of London's dirty streets, but the fog of confusion, corruption, and delay inside the great court of chancery. In this world, justice moves slower than time, and people lose their hopes while waiting for the law to act. But through all this darkness, Dickens shows us one thing that still shines: kindness, compassion, and the goodness of a few hearts who never give up. Welcome to Angareji Sahitya, friends, your gateway into the great masterpieces of English literature. Friends, today we explore Bleak House, an epic story written by Charles Dickens and published between 1852 and 1853. At its center lies an endless lawsuit called Jarndyce versus Jarndyce, a case that destroys everyone who touches it. Friends, the novel is told through two voices, one from an all seeing narrator and the other from a gentle orphan named Esther Summerson. It is a tale filled with mystery, love, secrets, and strong criticism of a society that forgets compassion. So stay with us till the end as we walk through the misty streets of Victorian London and discover how one lawsuit ruined generations, yet how humanity still finds light in the fog. Now, friends, let's discuss the important characters of this novel. Friends, Charles Dickens was a master of creating unforgettable characters. People so real and alive that they seem to step out of the pages and speak to us. In Bleak House, he builds an entire world filled with kindness, greed, and love and sorrow. At the center of it all stands Esther Summerson, the gentle heart of the novel. She is kind, modest, and always ready to help others. Esther tells us half the story in her own simple voice, and through her eyes, we see both the pain and goodness of the world. Friends, her guardian, John Jarndyce, is one of Dickens' most novel figures. Wise, caring, and always doing good quietly, without expecting anything in return. Under his care live the young lovers, Ada Clare and Richard Carstone, two innocent souls whose happiness is slowly destroyed by the endless court case, Jarndyce versus Jarndyce. Friends, in another part of this fog covered world lives Lady Dedlock, a beautiful but sad woman with a terrible secret from her past. She seems proud and cold, but deep inside she hides great pain and regret. Friends, her husband, Sir Leicester Dedlock, is a proud old aristocrat, strict in his manners but full of love for his wife. Friends, watching them closely is Mr. Tulkinghorn, a dark and mysterious lawyer who represents the cold, secretive face of the law. Friends, when Lady Dedlock's secret is in danger of being revealed, his silent power becomes truly frightening. To solve the mystery that follows, Dickens introduces Inspector Bucket, one of the first detectives in English literature, calm, clever, and determined to uncover the truth. Around them are many others who make the story rich and real. Mr. Guppy, a funny yet foolish young man who awkwardly admires Easter. Miss Flight, an old woman driven mad by years of waiting for justice, keeping little birds named after her lost hopes. Crook, the greedy shopkeeper whose body literally burns up, a shocking symbol of moral decay. And Joe, the poor crossing sweeper boy whose simple words and sad fate remind us all of forgotten souls in society. Friends, Dickens also fills Bleak House with strange, colorful supporting characters. There is Miss Jelby, who spends all her time talking about saving people in Africa, but completely ignores her own starving children at home. A perfect example of what Dickens calls telescopic philanthropy. Then we meet Harold Skimpole, a man who acts innocent and harmless but uses his childlike nature as an excuse to live off others' kindness. Friends, finally there is Mr. Snack Spy, a gentle printer who always tries to do right but gets caught in the middle of other people's lies and secrets. Each of these characters, from the kind and noble to the cruel and foolish, adds life and energy to Bleak House. Through them, Dickens shows us every side of human nature, the bright light of goodness and the deep shadows of greed and pride. So, friends, let's begin our story. In the fog filled London streets, there lies a courtroom where time seems to have stopped. The case of Jarndyce versus Jarndyce has been dragging on for generations, so long that no one even remembers how it began. Friends, families have lost everything waiting for a verdict that never comes. The lawyers grows richer, the papers pile higher, and hope fades away like smoke. Charles Dickens uses this endless lawsuit to show how slow and heartless the legal system can be. A machine that crushes lives in its gears. Amid this darkness stands a man of kindness, John Jarndyce. Friends, he hates the very name of the lawsuit, though it's tied to his own family. To him, money from such a case only brings misery. Instead, he believes in goodness, honesty, and helping others. When he hears about two young people, Ada Clare and Richard Carstone, who are connected to the case, he takes them under his care. They are sweet, hopeful, and in love. Two bright souls stepping into a fog they do not yet understand. Along with them comes Esther Summerson, a gentle orphan with a warm heart and humble nature. She becomes Ada's companion and soon the quiet strength of Bleak House, John Jarndyce's home. Under its roof, they form a new kind of family, built not by blood but by kindness. Easter brings light where there was once sorrow. She listens, comforts, and teaches everyone around her what true goodness looks like. In her eyes, we see Dickens' belief that compassion, not law, is what truly saves the world. Friends, while Easter, Ada, and Richard are building a life of warmth and kindness at Bleak House, far away in the grand halls of Chesney Wold, another story is quietly unfolding. Friends, the house is rich, beautiful, and filled with fine things, but its mistress, Lady Dedlock, feels an emptiness she cannot explain. Surrounded by servants and luxury, she lives like a queen in a cage. Her husband, Sir Leicester Dedlock, is proud and devoted, but too old and too stiff to understand her hidden sorrow. Beneath her calm and graceful face lies a storm of secrets. Friends, one cold afternoon, Lady Dedlock is looking through some legal papers sent by her husband's lawyer, Mr. Turkingham. She seems bored until her eyes fall on one sheet, written in a familiar hand. In that instant, the world seems to stop. The color drains from her face and she faints. Mr. Turkingham, ever watchful and secretive, notices this strange reaction. He says nothing, but his sharp mind begins to turn. Who wrote that letter? Why did it affect her so deeply? Slowly and silently, he starts digging into Lady Dedlock's past. And what a past it is! Years ago, before her marriage, Lady Dedlock fell deeply in love. Friends, she had a child, but tragedy struck. She was told the baby had died. Her heart broke and she buried her pain beneath layers of elegance and pride. But the truth is far from over. That child, alive and kind hearted, has grown up none other than Esther Summerson herself. Neither mother nor daughter knows the truth yet, but their fates are already moving towards each other through the fog and mystery that cover Dickens' world. Friends, while the mystery of Lady Dedlock slowly deepens, life at Bleak House continues with a gentle rhythm. Esther Summerson, with her soft voice and kind heart, becomes the light of everyone's life. She listens to people's worries, comforts the sad, and keeps the home filled with warmth. Even the cold, grey English weather seems brighter around her. Ada Clare and Richard Carstone, the two young wards, fell deeply in love. Their daughter, their laughter filling the halls of Bleak House. It seems like happiness might finally win over the gloom of the lawsuit that still hangs above them. Friends, but as time passes, Richard changes. The poisonous case of Jarndyce versus Jarndyce begins to take hold of his mind. He becomes obsessed with the idea that one day, when the case is over, he and Ada will inherit a great fortune. Friends, John Jarndyce, wise and kind, warns him gently. The case ruins everyone who touches it. But Richard does not listen. He quits his studies, chases false hopes, and falls deeper into debt. His bright future starts to fade, and Ada's heart quietly breaks as she watches the man she loves being destroyed by greed and obsession. Meanwhile, Esther's own life takes a painful turn. She cares for a poor street sweeper named Joe, who is sick and homeless, showing her selfless heart. Friends, but soon she catches his illness, smallpox, and nearly dies. When she finally recovers, her once beautiful face is scarred, but her spirit remains strong and gentle. In her weakness, John Jarndyce offers her marriage, not out of pity, but out of deep affection and gratitude. Esther is touched yet uncertain. Her heart is full of kindness, but also confusion, as she quietly wonders what love truly means. Friends, as Esther slowly regains her strength, a powerful truth begins to unfold in another corner of this fog covered world. Lady Dedlock, still haunted by her past, learns that the child she once believed dead is alive, and that child is none other than Esther Summerson. The shock and joy of this discovery shake her soul. After years of silence, guilt, and hidden sorrow, she secretly meets Esther. It's one of the most moving moments in all of Dickens' writing. Mother and daughter finally united, not by wealth or name, but by tears and forgiveness. Friends, Lady Dedlock, proud and graceful, even in sadness, tells Esther the truth, begging her to keep it hidden to protect them both. But the shadows of secrecy grows darker. The ever watchful Mr. Tulkinghorn, that cold and cunning lawyer, has already pieced the mystery together. He knows Lady Dedlock's secret and plans to reveal it to her husband, Sir Leicester Dedlock, not out of duty, but out of control and curiosity. Friends, Lady Dedlock feels trapped once again, her past ready to destroy her carefully built life. She is terrified of shame, scandal, and heartbreak. Dickens makes us feel her pain, the fear of a woman who has sinned only by loving too deeply. And then the story takes a shocking turn. Before Tulkinghorn can act, he is found murdered in his own chambers. Friends, London whispers with gossip and suspicion. All eyes turn to Lady Dedlock, who now seems guilty in the eyes of the world. Overcome with fear and sorrow, she writes a letter of farewell and runs away into the cold, foggy night. Friends, her footsteps vanish into the mist, leaving behind a husband who still loves her, a daughter who has just found her, and a world that never forgives too easily. Dickens wraps this part of the story in heartbreak and mystery, a mother's love lost again to the cruelty of fate. Friends, as London fills with fear and gossip after Mr. Tulkinghorn's murder, a calm and clever man steps into the mist. Inspector Bucket, one of literature's very first detectives. Unlike others who rush to judgment, Bucket observes quietly, connects every clue, and searches for truth with patience and fairness. Friends, his sharp mind soon uncovers the real story. Lady Dedlock is innocent, and the true killer is the husband of her loyal maid, driven by revenge. But before Bucket can bring the news, Lady Dedlock, crushed by shame and sorrow, has already fled into the fog. Realizing her danger, the inspector races through the dark, rainy streets of London to find her, his lantern cutting through the mist. It's no longer just a chase for justice, but a desperate race to save a broken heart before it's too late. Friends, as the fog grows thicker and the night turns colder, as Inspector Bucket continues his desperate search for Lady Dedlock. But he is not alone. Esther Summerson, heart heavy with love and fear, joins him. Together, they move through the dark streets of London, calling her name, searching every corner through alleys, graveyards, and snow covered roads. Friends, the city feels endless, wrapped in mist and silence. Dickens paints the scene uh, like a haunting dream. A daughter trying to save the mother she has just found, and a detective racing against fate itself. Their lantern flickers as they move through the storm, their hope burning faintly against the cruel cold of the night. Friends, at last, as dawn breaks, they reach a lonely cemetery gate. There, beside the grave of Lady Dedlock's lost lover, lies her lifeless body, cold, still, and at peace at last. The long years of guilt, secrecy, and shame have finally broken her heart. When Sir Leicester Dedlock learns the truth, he is devastated but not angry. His love remains strong, even in sorrow. He forgives her completely. Dickens ends this part with deep sadness but also a quiet beauty, showing how even in tragedy, love and forgiveness shine brighter than all the fog and darkness that surround Bleak House. And after all the pain and waiting, the endless case of Jarndyce versus Jarndyce finally comes to an end, but not the kind of end anyone hoped for. When the lawyers announced that all the money has been eaten up by legal costs, everyone is left speechless. There is no winner, no justice, only loss. Dickens turns this moment into a dark joke on society itself. The lawsuit that had lasted for generations ends in nothing. The courts, the papers, the lawyers, all the people who were supposed to help have drained it dry. Friends, Richard Carstone, who once dreamed that the case would make him rich and happy, is left broken and defeated. His health fails under the weight of disappointment, and he dies soon after, leaving behind Ada in tears and regret. Friends, through this bitter ending, Dickens shows the true villain of Bleak House, not a person, but the corrupt legal system itself. The Chancery Court, slow and heartless, destroys everyone who touches it. John Jarndyce, kind as ever, comforts the survivors and helps them start anew, but the message remains clear. Greed and endless lawsuits only bring ruin. As the fog of the Chancery finally lifts, Dickens leaves his readers with a warning that real justice should heal lives, not destroy them. Friends, after all the sadness and loss, a little light finally shines through the fog. John Jarndyce, always wise and selfless, sees that Easter's heart truly belongs to Dr. Ellen Woodcourt, the gentle and caring doctor who stood by her through every hardship. Instead of holding her to their engagement, Jarndyce quietly steps aside, an act of pure kindness that shows the depth of his character. He gives Esther his blessing and even gives her a cozy new home, called it Bleak House, so that she can start her new life with the man she loves. It's one of the most touching and heartwarming moments in the novel. Proof that love and generosity can survive even after tragedy. Friends, Esther and Ellen marry and build a life filled with peace and affection, far away from the chaos of the Chancery Court. She looks back on everything she has endured, her illness, her scars, her mother's loss, and still finds gratitude and hope. Friends, Dickens ends Bleak House not in despair but in quiet optimism. The fog may have covered London, and injustice may have destroyed lives, but in Easter's goodness and resilience, Dickens reminds us that even in a dark world, kindness and love can still light the way. Now, friends, let's discuss the themes and symbols in this novel. Friends, Charles Dickens ends Bleak House with a powerful truth. Real justice does not come from courts or laws, but from human compassion. The endless lawsuit, Jarndyce versus Jarndyce, shows how the legal system can trap people instead of freeing them. The fog that rolls through London is more than just weather. It is a symbol of confusion, blindness, and moral decay. A society lost in its own rules and paperwork. Friends, Dickens mocks this with his sharpest line. The one great principle of the English law is to make business for itself. Beneath the humor lies deep pain because while lawyers argue, lives are ruined and the innocent suffer. And yet, amidst this fog, Dickens gives us light. In people like Esther Summerson, whose kindness and humility restore faith in humanity. Friends, Bleak House is not only a story of crime, love, and loss, it's a mirror that still reflects our modern world. The corruption of systems, the neglects of the poor, the struggles of women, and the power of mercy. From Joe's tragic cry, "He was very good to me, he was," to Lady Dedlock's secret shame, to Dickens shows that beneath wealth and respectability lies human weakness, but also human strength. Friends, the novel ends with hope, even when the world is bleak, compassion, truth, and love can still clear the fog. Thank you for joining this journey through the mist with Angareji Sahitya, friends. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the timeless masterpieces of world literature. Until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and keep the fire of Angareji Sahitya alive. Thank you, friends.